Welcome to the Tourism AI podcast, where we talk about all things at the intersection of tourism and artificial intelligence. Today, I am excited to have Jason Sincada as my guest on the podcast, and he is the co-founder of a company called Kismet, that, according to their website, is an AI solutions tailored to your business needs. And it says, sorry, I was on a different part of this. I think this changed on me. Get your hotel AI ready before OTAs do. That was the headline that I saw before that got my interest.
Yeah.
And certainly, I actually sort of, I guess, met Jason online on LinkedIn, where he had a very interesting post talking about OpenAI telling LLMs to use Booking.com when people were using various capabilities using OpenAI. So we're going to dig into that a little bit because it really got my interest in terms of what he had to say, and I thought he had some really smart things to say. But before we get into that, Jason, why don't you just kind of give a bit of your background and what brought you to where you are today?
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. I'm excited to be here. The story of how I got here is maybe an interesting one, slightly surprising to a lot of people. My background, less surprising, my background's in data and research, but worked in a family real estate development business. We built a hotel, we permitted another, ended up building a hotel that became part or was a soft brand or is still a soft brand of Marriott. And after opening it and realizing just how important distribution was, and it was like the last thing I had ever thought of, I kind of found myself thinking, why was this not something I had paid attention to? Why was this not something I understood better? And it probably started me on the pathway to building Kismet, but it was really only when I finally played with ChatGPT, and this was like research preview right after Thanksgiving 2022, or at least US Thanksgiving, you know, and I play with this and I say, oh my goodness, people are going to book hotel rooms and plan their trips so differently so soon. This changes everything. This is the opportunity for hotels to sell directly to consumers in a way that they haven't been able to probably since the 80s or 90s. And I got really excited about it, and I had to just figure out a way to work on a business that could help hotels solve this problem. So that's how I got here.
Fantastic. So just looking at your LinkedIn profile, looks like you've been at this for about a year, 9 months ish, roughly. At least that's according to LinkedIn. So yeah, that's sort of kind of, I guess, yeah, you got the idea and you just went right after it. It sounds like in terms of
No, I
developing
mean
the
it
solution.
took me a good 9 months to actually get started, or at least think about what it was going to be.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't react fast enough, but we started working on this, or at least I started working on this back in fall, approaching winter 2023. Found a co-founder after that, got into a venture accelerator, raised some money afterward. We actually have a wonderful Canadian VC on the cap table who's one of our favorites, and that's DevCap AI. But we have been working on this problem, or a form of this problem, for, like you said, about a year and 9 months. But the actual solution that we're able to put forward only came in the last 3 to 4 months, as a lot of this AI technology really came into view. So we started by working really on the application layer of how would a hotel introduce an AI that could help people book their hotel rooms. And we realized, after spending a year plus of working with the data in the hotel supply, system and their different software, that it was so messy and so hard to read that AI had a lot of trouble with it. As we worked to make it readable to AI, we saw this emerging problem of GEO, or AI search. And the infrastructure that we had built was actually incredibly appropriate to this specific problem, which is, how does AI find your hotel or your travel supplier or your destination, read about it, and suggest it to a guest who's using AI to plan a trip. And so it was kind of one of those happy accidents, right? That something we had been working on so hard all of a sudden had such an obvious application, and started posting about it, and the inbound went through the roof. And I think that's how you found me.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that because obviously the post that got my interest, look at OpenAI telling the LLM to use Booking.com. So obviously the OTAs have figured something out. Is that sort of fair in terms of making sure they're findable and hotels haven't? Or kind of tell me why Booking.com maybe is different from a hotel website and how your tool kind of helps them solve the problem.
Sure. It's a really important question, and one that we've spent a lot of time trying not just to like backwards engineer and understand how an AI selects the links that it chooses, but really intuit what they're changing today, where Booking.com or Expedia has been over the last decade in terms of data that is exposed, and where we think and how AI search might evolve in the short and medium term. So today, we think the reason that Booking or another OTA, and especially as you get into the longer tail search queries, the OTAs and even smaller OTAs will show up more often. We think the reason that they show up is the speed at which they serve data, the structure of their data, the fact that it's being served at known routes, and the completeness of the data that they serve. And on all four dimensions, most OTAs beat even the most powerful branded direct booking site. But it doesn't have to be this way. And we've come up with a way to work with hotels or other travel suppliers to get their information into a knowledge graph in the way that AI likes to read it and serve it in the way that AI likes to receive it, and with in terms of speed and completeness and what routes we use. And we think that this is the opportunity for not just hotels but all travel suppliers to really work to give their information to just a new form of search and discovery.
Interesting. So I'm gonna ask some probably maybe ignorant sounding questions, but I think
No,
for myself, this is a learning opportunity, but also for our audience, I think. So how is it, so are you offering a different way to package SEO? Is that sort of what this is fundamentally kind of about? When you talk, is that sort of fundamentally are these OTAs just better at SEO? Is that a fair way to look at this, or is there something
I
more
think
there?
their lead came from, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but their lead in the first place probably came from SEO best practices.
Hmm.
Today, a lot of models will, and when I say models, I mean like ChatGPT in its application or the AI search overview. A lot of them will start with what is a traditional web search. ChatGPT uses Bing, AI overviews from Google obviously use Google. Perplexity has a slightly different method. So it looks a lot like a web search. And so to even get in the conversation is an SEO question. Believe it or not, the AI actually will read much deeper along a search engine results page than most humans will. And it's searching in a way that paid advertising doesn't influence the results. So there is a lot of opportunity. Most AIs actually have no problem looking 20 or 30 links deep and grabbing the HTML from that web page and looking for whether it has the right information. So you don't have to get into the first three results or even on the first page to be found, which is what's exciting and what creates a lot of opportunity. So it's a little bit different than traditional SEO in that way. And then where it really differs is that the way that an AI model gets information from a web page is fundamentally different from the way a human being loading a page and reading it does, or even Googlebot, which is indexing the world's pages for SEO purposes. It's not loading the page, so to speak, and that makes a big difference when it comes to getting your information selected.
Okay. So, but I'm going to follow up a little bit on that. Is I guess the sort of follow-up question is it still good fundamental on-page SEO is still part of sort of the solution? Like maybe when I say SEO, I don't mean like being in the first three results, which was typically what everybody was looking to do, but still
Sure.
structuring your on-page SEO properly, having good meta titles, descriptions, all that stuff. Is that still part of a thing that's needed for hotels to get sort of found by AI tools, or is this something completely now that's not even important anymore? We could just, go to step B.
No, no, absolutely. Good SEO hygiene is table stakes. You have almost no shot of ending up in the conversation if you don't take basic steps that were historically important for SEO. So we think you need to do that still, but you need to take it further. And it's actually a far more technologically or technically challenging standard to uphold if you want to invest in competing with the third party sites which have become very good at getting the type of information that these crawlers are looking for or these AI models are looking for into a page.
So it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's like good foundational SEO is the starting point. And then in addition to sort of really well structured data or data structured in a certain way, is that sort of kind of the in keywords and like not even keywords, but descriptions and like help me understand kind of what the difference, I guess, between that core table stakes SEO is and kind of what your solution does sort of beyond that. What is sort of and without sort of obviously giving away the secret sauce.
No, it's funny. I think what we've done is hard enough that we can talk in pretty good detail, and we should wanna promote it because I don't know that it's an easy thing to accomplish. There's a couple things that are a little bit different. The first is you need to serve the information in a place on your page and in a format that harder than what you had to do in order to get Googlebot to index your page. So Googlebot, when I said it loads your page and reads it, it uses something called a headless browser. It is actually running the JavaScript on your page. So we can get information that's quite buried on a very, very heavy website and use it. Uh, that's not true of AI models, and it's certainly not true of the cheapest or most cost efficient AI models that the big model companies put in their free usage tiers. So, as a result, you need to be doing something different in terms of that data.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then I think
Okay.
on top of that, in terms of what it is that you return, you're going to want to return things that are not typically used when you're expecting an actual live browser to go to your page and click around. So, for instance, we can get away with just showing up as a hotel and letting the user click around on our page and find the rooms that might be available, look up pricing. It didn't matter if the Book Now button linked out to a separate or third party website because it was a person traveling across that link, executing it in browser, and going to this separate booking page and looking up pricing. Cannot do that. So you need to serve the information in a way where at the main page it can operate it and get to the answers that it needs to be able to show it to guests. And this is actually an area of opportunity to play offense against the OTAs. So one of the things that I always show in a demo is I'm like, let's come up with a long-term search involving some pricing, restriction that a guest might say, like, help me find a hotel in the South, in a football town. I want to go on a trip and go see a sports game, and I want to spend less than $300 a night. And this is a great one, and it's a little bit of a cheat for us because if it's actually the same time that the local college football team in the South is playing at home, the prices would never be under $300 a night.
Right.
But because OTAs always list pricing from a certain dollar amount, it
Right.
actually
They get away
confuses
with
the
it.
LLM, and it'll often tell you like, "Hey, I can see that these rooms are available, and it's
Right.
it's about
But they're
$150 a
not.
night," but they're not because the OTA even is not giving you fully up to date pricing information on its page in a way that the AI can operate, but you can as a hotel.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you learn to harness your own content, press, awards, actual
Mm.
pricing data and serve it up in a way that an AI can read, you're going to enable such cool, such bottoms up search for your hotel. That people can be looking for specific types of rooms or different features or views or even searching by user generated content from social media. And they'll be able to find you as long as you're able to serve that information up to the AI that's looking. So it's it's
Very
it's a
interesting.
really cool opportunity for
I
hotels that
really like
embrace this
that.
technology.
Yeah. So first of all, I'll make a comment that your search query is the longest tail keyword I've ever heard, which is, important to note though, right? Because at the end of the day, with LLMs coming in, like this is how I use LLMs. In fact, I use them in audio mode on a walk with my dog often, and so I'm like having
Isn't
full
the best?
conversations with my AI,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I'm like
yeah.
I'm all in for vibe working. Like as soon as you know what I mean, the agents are good enough. It's like I would like to have like work on the top of a mountain if I can, right? But my point is that like the way people are talking to LLMs very different than traditionally the way they've worked with maybe a Google or a whatever in terms of a traditional search engine, right? And so like that, so that way you just describe there is just you all of this detail that you'd be looking for. I'm looking for a hotel this, buy this game, to do this, blah blah blah. that's the reality of the search environment today, right? So I think,
I've never typed that term into Google's traditional search engine and expected a
right,
result, but
right,
that is a question that you might ask an LLM. And an
right.
LLM or a search based model, an AI based search model, can reason through that
Yes,
information as long as it can locate that information. And
that's
it,
right.
and it opens up a world of long tail search that I think is really cool
Really, yeah.
and just really exciting for people working in interesting destinations with interesting properties or interesting tours or events and things like that going on. The way that people will find where they stay, where they visit, how they get there will be completely different with these tools. And the point is that we should invest as an industry in giving these tools the information to really find us.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And so is that fundamentally, I guess, some of the power behind Kismet in terms of like really getting that the sort of long tail queries found, or not necessarily? Like obviously if somebody had a more of a short tail, kind of just a standard SEO keyword, does your solution help with that as well? Or is it both? Either, kind of help me understand that piece.
No, I'm glad you're asking the question. One of the things that I'm really cognizant of is I think there's a lot of bad advice out there on the internet. And like, I really don't want to get over my skis, so to speak, in terms of promising more than what LLM search or AI search is involved with today. I think that long tail search is where it excels today. The short search will, I think, disappear from most of travel planning in the not too distant future as people become more and more comfortable with just typing longer
Yeah.
queries into a
Yeah.
search bar. But I think that even if it's hard to get in the initial list for a short term search, once somebody filters down to your property on a shorter list, maybe they're working with a list of 5 to 7 hotels. What we have to remember is that AI search is very interactive. You ask
Mhm.
follow up questions, and then you
Yeah.
ask the AI to check on certain things and make comparison between properties. That second level, once you've been discovered and you're on a short list, you're going to have to serve very detailed information for the AI to be able to compare across different properties. And so now I think, you know, even something that started as boutique hotel in New York, which is obviously very hard to compete in paid
Mhm.
search, in SEO is near impossible, expensive in paid search or SEM or performance advertising. Now you may end up on a very long list. And through interacting with an LLM, a guest may filter down to you on a shorter list of hotels. And then in order to make that eventual selection, it will go to your hotel's website, look for the information in order to thin slice between whether or not this one's good for families or are there connecting rooms available. So the more information you can power from your own website, the more likely you are to end up selected and have it be a potential direct booking
Yeah.
where the LLM is relying on your link.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You said something else that really got my attention because it's something we spend a lot of time on at my digital marketing agency slash what we're now transitioning towards our digital PR agency. But you mentioned press and awards,
Yeah.
and we sort of see a growing kind of, I guess, understanding that sort of PR and good, kind of media mentions are really the future of link building. I mean, I actually think it's always been the case that that's the best way to link build. But now it's like all the SEO is coming to terms with this reality, that good
Yeah.
natural links and sort of, articles and newspapers and newsletter and industry publications and all these things are quite, valuable. And things like awards. So is that sort of, you mentioned those things, is that sort of a big part of a strategy that hotels should be thinking about and or tourism, operators or whatever, property owners around kind of online visibility in general, as opposed to sort of traditional link building? I guess my long way of saying, do you think traditional SEO is dead?
No, you've asked it a couple ways, and I don't. I think traditional SEO still matters, but I agree with you that more important than ever are third-party sources of authority, and they'll get more interesting as you get into the more interesting interactive search. I mean, Google just announced the other day they're going to be relying on Instagram content to, to power its search tools. So even traditional SEO is moving towards external sources of authority that can be quantified in order to influence search engine results. But when we get into the GEO, the AI search space, I think that it becomes even more important than on traditional SEO, because in traditional SEO, you were trying to end up on a search engine results page. And the assumption was always that a human was going to take it the last mile. They would do continuous research. They would dive deeper. They would validate by clicking out to Instagram.
Right.
But an LLM or an AI search tool is trying to validate on its own. And as it looks for sources of information that are specifically more long tail, it becomes harder and harder for it to rely on official sources because they're more gameable. And we have seen in our own research that AIs do look for external sources of authority to validate these longer tail situations. And I'll give an example. We can get an LLM operating on our desktop to use search tools to look into social media content and look for pictures of a pool party. And it will choose to use pictures of a pool party to answer a question that we might ask it. Is this pool party a great fit for a family, or is it more of a 21 plus crowd? And so baked into the very models that are powering these tools are a desire to make use of sources of authority like UGC, like press, I think is going to be very important, like awards, in order to validate what it's showing to a user. And a lot of that's very tricky. I mean, the number of hotel websites we come across where they're just dropping a logo file of the award they've won, and there's no there's no alt text or anything like that.
Right, right.
The LLM is not going to use the computational power. It's very expensive
Yeah.
to look at that, load the file, read it with computer vision, and then come up with a list of awards this hotel's run. You have to make it cheap, fast, easy for the AI
Right.
search to do it. So
Got to
if you
spoon
win the
feed it, right?
award, you got to put it into the data.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. Yeah. And it's interesting because like we're very, so I sort of alluded to, we kind of focus on, now we're very focused on digital PR. And in fact, we talked about Riverside before we hit record here, but this is now our primary tool for digital PR, and for a couple of reasons. So one, obviously we could do interviews with our clients or talking head videos. We can turn it into written content. We can turn it into video shorts that we could put on YouTube and on websites. And, you sort of do a very dynamic multimodal content strategy that's got sort of human in the loop, human first kind of, Google's EAT framework sort of baked into it, right? And then to your point, then some alt text and stuff on images and on videos and all that kind of, SEOing the videos and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's kind of how we're looking at the world. And it sounds like that's sort of what you're kind of, I guess, saying is like, you have to sort of give all the LLMs as much of the data as possible, make it as easy for the LM to understand what's there, have it multimodal, but also have things like alt text where it can actually just quickly sort of scan and understand. And is that sort of kind of aligned, I guess, what we're sort of working on? Not to say that's what you guys do, but how the LLM needs to sort of see and look at a website or at information.
Yeah, I think at minimum you'll want to do alt tech. I think what's really interesting is that if you do the computationally expensive parts on behalf of an LLM by, for instance, and this will get a little technical sounding, and if you want to dig into what it works, or properly ingesting and vector embedding your imagery in your videos, right? Which is just a fancy way of saying making it so that natural language can surface a video. So something saying like, I want to see pictures of such and such, right? Making it so that we can get it out of a database where we've stored it. If you work with Kismet, we do that work so that your beautiful visual content and your videos are something that can be returned to a natural language search. You could use alt text to try to make it easier, but actually really understanding and ingesting properly with proper vector embeddings can elicit really interesting things when you then try to recall those videos and images. So it can do like for like search, for instance, like what pool looks like this pool.
Okay.
Show me views, right? From this room type. If you do what's computationally expensive, you can really enable an amazing experience on the consumer side. So I think that's where it's going.
Very
I
cool.
don't know how valuable it is today in terms of being a differentiator because a lot of the consumer side applications aren't showing video without, checking it, right?
Yeah.
But in the long run, that's where we think this is going. We think that like you're going to be responsible for just painting a beautiful picture of what your property or what your tour is like, and the LLMs will be able to understand it. So I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty exciting.
Interesting. Yeah, no, very, very cool. Yeah, I'm very interested in probably trying you guys myself on one of our clients, so we'll have that
Oh, cool.
conversation afterwards.
Yeah,
But
yeah, let's definitely do
yeah.
that.
So tell me a little bit about that though. So I'm obviously hotels is where you're starting, but
Yeah,
it sounds to me like you can go, you're thinking bigger and broader than hotels. So I'm gonna, pick on I always pick on my one client, which is a heli skiing company, which
love
is an
it.
amazing, and we have all-inclusive fishing resort that has a hotel property, but also a destination, a tourism or a sporting kind of, I guess, piece to it. And so, kind of, tell me a little bit about sort of who, obviously, hotels are your narrowest target audience, but tell me a little bit about your target audience and who would work best with you.
Yeah, so I'm a hotel and architecture nerd, so like I think that everybody just searches for the hotel first. Turns out not everybody, is particularly interested in the most design forward hotels or like
Right.
spends, their free time like scrolling hotel Instagram pages. So I have to accept that. I think our product for this is that we are open sourcing our travel. So later this quarter, we'll release it, and any sort of travel supplier can hook up to it and say, I'm a tour, I'm an event, I'm a venue that has these types of events. Here's my calendar, and put it into the same knowledge graph that our hotels live in. Hotels are our clients historically. Maybe we'll have a product for other types of travel suppliers in the future. It depends on how the roadmap evolves. But we think that the team is people who have awesome experiences, who are in the travel supply business. If they can get their information operable, readable, free to the demand side, and that's people using everything from ChatGPT to AI that's built into their phone to their car stereo, all the new places that people might be searching for travel from. We're interested in helping the supply side work as a team, and we want to be very neutral. We want to work with as many people who want to do it. We're at the end of the day like nerdy infrastructure guys who just want to make the database work and work with like the difficulty of serving information at different routes. But we love travel, and we want to help all different sorts of suppliers work together as a team because they can together take distribution back to a direct form
Yeah.
when they are engaging in structuring their data and serving it up in the same places. So to use a more concrete example, because I know that was really abstract and I talked about a travel graph, right?
Right.
If a hotel wants to say this venue down the street is a great place to have your meeting or do your event, stay at our hotel, and then there's this brewery which is awesome for a welcome party, they can tag each other within the graph, make themselves known as like different partners, and help to work together for discoverability where people are planning itineraries. And AI can work across these different nodes in the travel graph to better plan whole trips, whole itineraries. And I think that that's the opportunity, and that's why like there's this opportunity to work together as a team and really change how different properties, different events, different
Yeah.
travel suppliers are discovered.
Yeah, so now you got my attention because as I mentioned before, we work with a lot of destinations, and
Yes.
I obviously a destination is sort of a amalgamator, if you will, of sorts of all the things to do in a destination. So is that sort of how does that? And many destination websites which we've built and we manage, will have, for example, they'll just have a link to all of the hotels or all of the properties in the destination or all of the attractions and or all the tourism operators and all whatever, but they just link out to those people and then it goes to the website, right? In most cases. And so, do you see a role for destinations to play in this kind of ecosystem that you're talking about? I think I know the answer,
Yeah.
but I'd like to hear from you.
No, DMOs do amazing work to try to promote an individual location. But I think the thing that's changing in search is we talk about everything from hotels to a travel itinerary being built bottom up. You don't know how somebody will pick a destination when you don't have to start with a search term to filter hotels or locations by city first. And So DMOs could be in this world the way that somebody who selects a specific event gets to the destination level and plans a whole itinerary. It works with everything from transportation companies to different restaurants to places to stay to things to do. And 21st century DMO will do a good job of structuring data about its market in a way that an AI that's working on a trip itinerary can operate well. It will group by on behalf of different suppliers and different, events companies and things like that within its market, so that that information can be easily operable to make different businesses within the local market better off. And I think this is a huge opportunity,
Yes.
and we're just starting to have those conversations with a couple of different like forward thinking DMOs that have reached out to us. But
Okay.
if there are listeners to your podcast, or companies that or ones that you're working with who want to have this conversation, like we're really excited about what that
Okay.
turns
Yeah.
into.
Well, let's talk about that because I am working with quite a few DMOs, and I think many of them would be interested in this conversation because it's sort of a missing piece in the DMO space a little bit, and I think you kind of might have a solution that sort of helps fill a need in a big way. And really, if I think about it, you know, all of the say hotels or accommodators or whatever in the DMO are all obviously competing, but at the same time they're all working together and there's sort of one market and they're sort of friendly competitors if you will and so I think it makes a ton of sense at the destination level actually, of course at the hotel individual hotel level for sure, but if you can get the whole destination working in unison, that's amazing.
Yeah, this made me think of two things. In theory, in the same market, you're competing with other hotels, like or suppliers, like in the hotel industry, we're always talking about our comp set. Um, you're also on different teams almost always. It's almost impossible for an individual independent hotel to go it alone and get any visibility,
Totally.
unless it's or any sort of type of supplier. Like maybe you get lucky, you get a big PR hit, that will flow through and you'll get some business out of it. But it's very hard to continually drive demand at the individual level, which is why, chain companies exist and which is why OTAs exist. Because if you have everyone, then it's really easy to spend the money to get the visibility. So I think that more so than ever, everybody within the industry realizes there are times that you're on the same team and that you should be working together. But something that you brought up made me want to ask you, Peter. You had said that before we started the podcast that you're really interested in the question of like reporting and data at the destination level. What what are the big needs in that space? I'd love to know more.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a whole bunch, right? So in Canada, it's a little bit different from the US. And so, you got to kind of sort of take what I say with a grain of salt to some extent in the US, but it's similar in that, basically all of these destinations get funding from government or like through some kind of tourism levy or tourism tax. So they got to report on that. They get grants, they got to report on that. They have municipal grants sometimes, they got to report on that. They have special partnerships that they create, little initiatives with the hotels in the region or whatever. They got to report on that. So essentially, everything a destination does. I look at the world from, I've had lots of interviews with lots of destinations. Either they're doing the thing or reporting on the thing they're doing, literally.
It seems
That's
like a lot of
all
work.
they do. And the part they hate the most is reporting on the thing they're doing. And so really, if you think about it, all destinations are moving away from destination marketing, much more into a destination development, economic development,
Mm,
value of tourism story. So value of tourism, sometimes, if I live near Banff where there's over tourism, so there's a conversation to be had about that.
oh, interesting.
And then there's also a conversation to have about, geez, if we just develop some new tourism assets, we can, get more tourists, we can do more things, right? So, the data pieces are very varied. So they're looking for data, first of all, on understanding the tourist and what's going on and who's coming through and where they're spending money and all those things. So that's sort of what I'll call the 30,000 foot view level of data.
Mm,
And then there's what the solution I want to build is actually what I'm calling the last mile solution, which is literally, what their data is telling them. So on the reporting side itself, it's just like, first of all, okay, we're doing social media, we're doing advertising, we're doing fam tours, we're doing partnerships. How do we actually sort of measure results and how do we measure effectiveness of that? And then, in terms of value of tourism, it's like, do our residents value tourism? Do they know what a destination organization does?
interesting.
Do they hate tourism? Like, there's places where summer it's like obnoxiously busy, all that kind of stuff, right? And then also there's just sort of like really boring data, which is like, okay, we had 6 meetings with, the airport authority or whatever, with the goal of like bringing in a new airline, a new flight. Okay, it was successful or it wasn't, but there's just a kind of like dry reporting on how much effort it took to get to there, and can we sort of have an ROI calculation about the work that the DMO does? Can we deploy
Interesting.
people better? So that's sort of like the broad scope of the kind of data we're talking about. But I know that many destinations also have to understand, for example, okay, so let's say summer season, everybody's full, so all good there. But, winter season is less full, or shoulder season is less full. So, historically, who should we try to go after to fill up those seasons? And how do we sort of bring in more people during those times? Or, you know what I mean? Those types of things. So there's sort of like many components to it. But I think to me, the more valuable data as a destination you can sort of bring together with from all the stakeholder partners, the better, right? So I think for me, it's like obviously building a solution to help with the other piece that's kind of missing in my mind in tourism is attribution of marketing
Mm,
to sales information, right? So it's
it's
like
hard.
it's hard, right? But I think with AI, there's an opportunity to actually start bringing those things together. If you can, to me, it starts off with housing the data into one kind of space so that you unify the data. Then you can start making sense of the data. But to your point earlier, there's data coming in from all places, and none of it's unified. None of it talks to anything else.
Yeah.
Kind of a nightmare out
Well,
there, right?
and I thought we had it tough because, the systems of record where someone might buy something in a hotel, there's a lot of them, but like, there's four or five big ones. I was talking to somebody in tours, and they were like, there might be 1,000 different systems that tour operators are using to
Yeah,
sell tickets.
yeah,
It's like, all right, we're not gonna be able to capture every single one of them. But I wonder whether, if you're working on this, that whether there's the opportunity to use some sort of proxy to understand, hey, this is driving this type of interest. You can see how different people are benefiting from different types of travel and different types of campaigns. How do you make sure that, everybody is part of a destination that's paying into the system, or, it's a good investment for the government in driving activity in a certain region. I think it's a
totally.
really interesting opportunity. That's cool. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see. I got to get my. It's a big. I got to sort of take it one little piece at a
Big
time,
idea.
as you know, right? There's a lot to chew on here in this new world that we're living in, but it's exciting times, And I think what's really cool about what you're doing is you're seeing disruption and change, and you're seeing an opportunity for finally for really any sort of destination or tourism operator or hotel or whatever to sort of like play the game again, right? Because I feel like everybody's got locked in. We used to have it. It's actually funny. I have a notebook somewhere, and it's our little communications notebook, and it's where's the best place to hide a dead body? It's on the second page of Google, but now you're telling me that it's
Is it
no
that
longer
bad?
the truth, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, we got the dead body. We'll find the dead body on the second page, probably the third page, maybe not
Yeah,
the
yeah,
fourth. So you're just gonna have to bury it a little bit more.
that's right. You gotta go deeper, right? So yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So tell me about how does a hotel start working with you? Kind of what's the process if they want to start working with you? How involved for me? Like the biggest challenge I find, and which I'm sure you find as well, is
Yeah.
everybody's interested in technology and solutions, but like nobody's got time. There's a lack of expertise. So, is it sort of
Uh,
hard to work with you? Tell me a little bit about that piece.
it's nice to hear that you're talking to people who are interested in technology. I've found most people are pretty like anti-technology. Very few people got into hotels or a hospitality
Fair,
business because they love
fair,
computers.
fair.
I mean, like that would
Sorry,
just be
they're
a weird
into
choice.
technology that can solve problems for them.
Sure, that maybe
Yeah.
they can help them spend more time with people that they like.
Yes, exactly. You're
And
right there. Yes.
I'm with you. Like, and that's the thing that we have to remember every day. Like, I'm always talking to the team and saying, like, literally nobody built a hotel, started a tours business, opened a restaurant because they like loved sitting in front of a computer screen.
Right.
These are
Right.
definitionally people who did not like that,
Exactly.
because there's a lot of opportunities to do what we do, which is like my son, he's 4. He goes, Dad, did you go to the office and push buttons today? And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what I did all
What I
day,
do.
right?
Yeah.
That's my job. No, people who are doing hospitality, like they are like they're making magic person to person, and they should not want to put technology between them and the guest.
That's
And I
right.
think, unfortunately, a lot of hotels were told they needed to invest in AI, and they thought it meant put a chatbot on their website, which was a terrible experience. A virtual concierge is absolutely not the right answer. Like, Verizon or whatever the telco company is, and or I think it's Rogers in Canada or whatever. I don't even know if that's out of date or something, right?
No, that's right.
They
Yeah.
can do it, right? But
Yeah.
like, I don't call a hotel or want to
Yeah.
interact with somebody so I can chat with a chat bot. And so our pitch when we answer this question for hoteliers, you did not get into the business to work on technology or work in another screen on your computer. You do something that like we could never do. It's really hard. We want to be the system that you plug into and that you forget is there. You have some good reporting, so you know it's working, but we want to work with your existing website. We want to work with your existing social media. If you're in digital marketing and you're posting amazing content, like we'll ingest it. We'll deal with all like the really technical part of like getting it to work, getting it to live in a database, getting it to live on your website. But you do the actual hospitality. You tell people about it. You take great pictures. You
Yeah.
write great descriptions.
Right.
We're not generating your descriptions with AI. Like there are professionals who should actually copyright and talk about what's great about your hotel. So it's like honest and comes from the heart. But we'll take that thing that you're already doing, that picture you're already taking, we'll put it a place that AI can get to it so that it has more impact because this is the future of how people search, and especially uh, for kind of complex itineraries where they want to like get a bunch of different options. Like that's where it's going. But if you're creating the good content, you're doing the hard part. We're just trying to figure out how to get it to an AI that's going to discover you. So our pitch is you come to us. We've built a lot of technology to make it really easy to get your existing systems into this fairly technically hard system that we've built, but we'll make it really easy for you. You'll forget it's there. We'll update things. We'll keep the information fresh. And if we notice something that's not working, we'll talk to your agency. We'll talk to the person who can fix it. But it's not meant to be, a 3-month consulting engagement. You're supposed to just turn this on and it'll work. And we're the ones who are worried about where this is going.
Fantastic. I love that. Yeah, it's fun. It's funny that you say that because I speak at a lot of tourism conferences, and my number one line is like, who got into tourism to write reports, right? And like
Yeah,
zero people, absolutely zero
zero
people.
people. Yeah.
So, sorry, my camera has kind of gone fuzzy here.
Yeah.
Anyways, and yeah, and so I think to me, even in the Tourism AI network, I've noticed. Anyways, it's distracting for me, but we'll cut all of that out. But even in the Tourism AI network, actually, just give me a sec. We'll just do this again. My camera's just stopped kind of.
Okay, this is off.
Yeah, we can edit everything out. So, anyways, is it fuzzy for you? You see it fuzzy?
A little bit, but it also says the actual recording quality is
Yeah,
higher.
yeah, yeah. Anyways, it might not be the camera. Sometimes my camera goes out. So, anyways, my team will cut all this out. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, I think what I've learned even in the Tourism AI network, so we do a lot of AI consulting where we just literally teach people how to use ChatGPT or how to set up systems, like have a systems thinking approach, or how to think about context engineering and all the things just to sort of make AI actually work for you, kind of thing. But even that,
Mm.
I notice like there's interest, but at the same time, it's like can you just do this for me? You know what I mean? Like, is there a magic tool that could just solve my problems? And I think that's kind of probably where most providers and tool and sort of technology people need to get to is just like, here's the tool that can do the thing for you, right?
We have to remember, like, we're the only ones who think this is interesting. Like,
Yeah,
and I really think it's really interesting. And that's why you want me on your team. That's why you want Kismet working for you. Because, like,
yeah,
we actually think this is really cool. And we're reading, like, stuff that is coming out every day. And we're playing with all the new technology that we can get access to through, like, our special programs because we're building in the space. And, like, people will give us, software kits to play with and see how it works. We like this stuff. But you have to remember, like, nobody opened a hotel, nobody created a heli skiing company because they wanted to, it's like kind of the exact opposite of sitting in front of a computer and
isn't it?
typing on
Yeah,
a black screen. I like,
exactly.
I'd love to go heli skiing, so it's
Totally.
what I'll do in my free time. But this is the right fit for me. Running the company is the right fit for your client because I could
Exactly.
not do that, successfully.
Totally. Totally. Nice. Awesome. Well, fantastic. I think good for you for coming up with a solution. So how can people get a hold of you if they want more information?
Um, uh, MakeKismet.com. That's MakeKismet.com is our website. There's a waitlist form on it. If you want access, there's an ability to set a demo. We'll show up to that demo with kind of an audit of your existing online assets and help you think through it. So hopefully it's useful, even if you don't end up buying the product. We hope you do. You are more than welcome to email me, Jason at makekismet.com, if that's helpful. Like, kind of like that founder energy. I'm excited to get those emails directly, and I will respond to you. This is what I live for. But yeah, or give me a follow on LinkedIn, and reach out when you figure out that you'd like to invest in this. We want to talk to anybody working in travel, from software to DMOs to hotels themselves, because hotels are our core right now, but we're really interested in integrations and working with different DMOs and different providers, anyone in marketing. We're always trying to learn more because there's always more we can learn.
Awesome. Jason, thanks so much for joining the podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Peter, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Cheers.
Cheers.